back on with that MG. Here I am, messing around with the suspension, amongst other things. Enjoy the video. It goes without saying, please check you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, why not? How on earth are you going to find more content like this if you're not subscribed? Click the bell too. And if you fancy contacting me, well then it's Church House Classics, and that's all one word, at gmail.com. If you fancy supporting the channel or buying me a pint, then please use the PayPal me link scrolling along the bottom of the screen here. I might even invest in a nose hair trimmer. Sorry about that, folks. I just realised when I was editing a video the other day. Never mind. It happens. Enjoy the video. So these are the front swivel Kingpin whatevers. Top link. This is the one that goes to the damper. That's where your hub goes for your wheel. And then you've got the Kingpin. Oh, yeah. Now, what you're really looking for here is where... in the bushes down here, I've already extracted the, oh, maybe I haven't. Let me put you on the tripod. So on the bottom of the Kingpin, on the foot of the Kingpin, is this brass bush in here. And that really needs to go with a sleeve, which is here. You can see that's been sitting for a long time because some of the brass has come off on it. So, that goes in, and I'm getting just the slightest bit of play in there. So I'm going to try and replace this, first of all. Otherwise, I'm going to need to ream a new kind of bush in the bottom of the Kingpin. So we'll mount the Kingpin now in the vise, and then we'll slide the stub axle, I guess you call it, onto the Kingpin. And then really what I'm looking for is any form of movement, side to side, up and down. There is the very tiniest bit of play, and I can't see how you're ever going to get around it, because otherwise the thing won't turn. You want it to turn. So in the top bush, maybe half a thou. That's got to be good. The manual very helpfully just says check for play, replace if worn. I can't see that that is worn. And then similarly, we've got a couple of thrust washers and a spacer, which go up on the top there. And then that chappy will need to go back in, and the nut securing it down. I'm actually pretty happy with both of the Kingpin swivels on this, but in order to get them apart, they were fiendishly tight. I just sort that thread out. I had to give this one a right fucking tap, because this, there goes my thrust washer, is a bastard to get off. So on the back end of the Kingpin, let's take those off before I lose them. On the back end of the Kingpin, you have got a cutout, and that's for the bush. So when this goes in here, you can see the cutout. Sorry, put it in the right way around. You can see the cutout is designed to go in there nice and neatly, and then that sits with the rubber bush at the top and keeps everything lined up. Now, like I say, this was an absolute bastard to get apart. The bushes are properly shagged. Everyone likes to see a shagged bush, but for crying out loud, they were worn out. So I'm going to replace all the bushing. I'm going to rebuild these swivels around the existing components, so more or less can go straight back together. There's no ring at the bottom there to seal the oil in, and I've just checked all of the check I've still got those two big thrust washers. Checked all of the grease nipples to make sure they work, and they do. So yeah, actually pretty happy. It will work. Right, it will work tomorrow. It's not going to work today because I've had enough. Fuck's sake. And then once that's done, so there's the other swivel over there. That's the left-hand front swivel, and everything's packaged up. So all of these components here, we're not going to go down a nut and bolt restoration. I'm just going to clean these up, treat them with some rust, surface rust treatment, and then when it's all together, put a surface wax over the top of them, and it should see everything in there looking nice. Both shock absorbers are working nicely. So really, it's just a case of clean, reassembled new bushes. Everyone likes a new bush, for now. And new calipers. And then the front end can go back together. So I'm going to go home and put a massive order in. Huge order going in. We can get this moved forwards. Nice putting new bits on these things. Especially, well, it's nice putting new bits on, but it's nice when you can actually salvage quite a few of the old bits. You don't necessarily need to replace them. Some bits, of course, you will do. So hoses, Carreras, brake hoses, brake components are all going to get replaced. Discs, no need to change them. Bearings that came out are all in very good order once they were cleaned up. The solidified 23-year-old grease was cleaned out. They'll pack up nicely. They will work beautifully. So I'm not even worried about the wheel bearings. Just new seals. Kingpin fitted up with new bushes and bolts and so forth, all back together, all in rude health. New bump stop in there as well. There's nothing particularly complex about these things. If there's any wear in them, replace it. If there isn't wear in it, don't replace it. There was no wear in the Kingpin or the bushes that hold the Kingpin, so I kept them. However, all of the rubber bushing was shot, so I replaced it. Even pressed in new bushes on the end of the anti-roll bar down there. And then, what have I been doing then? Well, it's been fun. So I built up the pedal box. Thought, yes, fantastic, good effort. And then realised with the pedals in place, you can't put it in. And then also I wanted to sort all the paintwork out up there anyway. Front suspension. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to pull the back end apart. And excuse me, but I've got a stinking headache because of the smell of the old fuel, which is disgusting. 23-year-old petrol, honestly, is the most revolting smell known to mankind. Now, I'll go over to the brake back plate in a second. There was nothing particularly special on it, apart from the fact the cylinder is seized solid, which is why we're doing this exercise. Shoes and everything else are fine. And then I thought, while we're here, replace the brake flexi. Done that. And we'll replace the fuel lines at the back end here. Now, strictly speaking, the fuel lines should be rigid to and from the pump, if I remember correctly, or not. So there's a little short section of fuel line. So that's the bit of fuel line that I took off the feed from the pump. Yeah, it's tired fuel line going there. That was the fuel line that went to the front of the car. Now, it's actually still in one bit, but the problem is it's still crimped on here. So what I'm going to try and do is see if I can't cut that off there, and see then, once I've done that, because that's rubbish too, that's the old brake line, see if I can't then just put some fuel hose on it and crimp it into place. Because otherwise I've got to buy another bloody banjo, hose tail banjo, which I don't want to do. So just take that off there, and then I can do that. Now the other problem I've had is I've been dealing with Good Guys SC parts, and we've been struggling with this fucking water pump. Anyway, got a new water pump, fitted it all up, got ready to put all the pipes and everything on it, and then realised that the output on that is 28mm, 30mm. So the hose won't fit in. There is never a dull moment. In my box of all the suspension bits and bobs, old bushes, new bushes, don't chuck anything away until you know it works. Oh, here's the back plate. So the back plate came off, and shoes are all looking in fairly good order, so all I've done really is replace the cylinder. Check that the adjuster still works, check that the handbrake mechanism and everything works. I'll lob that back on. Before it goes back on, however, and because the car's been sitting there doing the square root of fuck all since 2001, I thought I would replace the seal orifice which is there. So I've ordered a pair of those that can just sit there in the meantime, slowing the exit of oil from the axle casing. I don't know whether the dampers are going to be any good. I think what we'll do is we'll replace the bits we know are going to cause us problems, and then once we've got everything there done, I can stink of petrol. What I need to do, I think, is open up the piss bucket, get rid of the smell of rotten petrol. Horrible, absolutely horrible. Oh dear. Disco seat there, look, spoiler there. You're going to get spoilers in all the videos at the moment because there's that much going on all the different projects. Right, pedal box, dead easy. I'm going to get this all ready to put this in. And the problem you've got is that there's been fluid leaks in the past, so there's no bloody paint under there. So I'm going to have to find out what this paint is. I suspect it's just tartan red. I think that's the MG colour. So I'm going to get myself a quarter of a tub, quarter of a litre, tenth of a litre, tiny little tub of 2-pack paint. I'll treat the rust on the surface, I'll take the carpets out of inside, and I will paint it so that when the pedal box goes back in, it looks acceptable. Then I decided to take all the clutch pipes off, mainly because the hydraulics were never connected up, but I wanted to get the giant nuts off the short flexible line, because I'm replacing that anyway. You can see the end of that is pretty bloody gopping. And then the other flexi line, well, the ends are just seized up solid on it. So I'm going to lube this overnight and see if we can't get this to move. Otherwise it's going to be a new one of these. Yeah. Put the drive shaft axle seals in, bolted the back plate up, put the drum back on, set the hub up with a new split pin, both sides. Oh yes. And at the front end, built up the front left hand corner with disc caliper and so forth, new seal in there. Beautiful, just beautiful. Now that's all together, and then yesterday, before it got too hot in here, because it was towards the end of the day, and do you know what, I just fancy going for a beer. I've got the Kingpin, got the spring and everything in. When you're putting the spring in on these things, you can do it with a jack, and I've done it with a jack, but it is a bit precarious, so just be careful how you take the springs out of these things. I'm sure there'll be an easier way. On jags, they have like a bolt that you put right the way through, and then you use a windy gun to bring the spring plate up and compress the spring. But on the MG, I couldn't find anything like that, so I had the lower wishbone hanging right down onto the floor, positioned the spring at a jaunty angle, making sure it got through the lip on the inside edge there, and then jacked it up and into position, and it worked. And then, yeah, Kingpin has gone back in with all the original shims. I've not found anything wrong with the shimming of the Kingpin, which will kind of make sense, because all I've really done on this is replaced the rubber bushes top and the pin bottom, the sliding bolt bottom, and new bushes on the wishbone. New fixings around and about. So everything's just been cleaned up and then put back together again, excuse me, as it came apart. And I'm going to do much the same thing. So wheel bearing on the other side, there are shims that you put between the inner and the outer wheel bearing. And again, you need to shim it correctly. So I'll start. The other side, it went together. I'm getting just over 1 1/4, 1.5 thou of end float. But then it's packed out with grease. So probably find that is going to be absolutely bang on. The manual says 2 to 4 thou, which is barely, you know, it's the width of a gnat's pube. for want of a worse expression, Richard. So I think as long as there is a tiny bit of M floating there, we'll be okay. Right, so I'm going to crack on with that. I'm going to empty this box out and onto the car. There's a whole load of crap in here, but clean the disc up. I'll just use a... I actually used my my orbital sander with a 200 grade disc on it. I went round the other disc because it looks like a new disc. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, and there's no lip on the edge of it, so I gave it a clean and popped it back on. There's no need to change things if they don't need changing. Calipers were solid, and the flexi hoses were 23 years old at least, so they got changed. But other than that, yes. Oh, there's my hat. Right, the other thing I want to do today is I've got all of the hose bits and so forth, so I actually want to get the rad back in, bottom hose on, and then I want to see how, well, see if the engine holds water is the main thing, because there wasn't a drop of water in it, which is mildly concerning me, because I don't know whether there was an issue and it's popped a core plug or whatever. You never quite know with these brand finds. Oh look, 2001. Because once I've got the hubs and everything done, then I can put the pedal box in. I've already shown you, I think, but pedal box is upside down but rebuilt with refurbished master, brand new clutch slave. I've loosely bolted it all together and then realised it didn't fit through the hole, and then realised actually I want to paint that first of all anyway. So I went up to the paint shop, picked myself up. There's two different shades of tartan red, and I bet this isn't tartan red, but for underneath the pedal box it will do. So I'm going to need to strip out the interior and put some masking down there, so that it will it will not drip onto the carpet. Yeah. Oh, don't know what that is. That's better. Right, onwards. All the brakes on the corners are now together. I treated the rust, the rot in the footwell. That is a hole. I'm going to weld it up. I've stripped the interior out. It's about as much as you need to do. Taking the carpet out, and I'll put a fire blanket in there before I weld that hole up. But there's a big hole in the footwell, as you can see in there. You can see the dots of light. There's a hole which we knew about because we were looking at the other side of it down here. It does look double skinned, doesn't it? Right, I don't know about MG body structure, whether that should be double skinned or not. And then I've obviously put all the radiator and everything back in. I've filled it up with water, and we'll see if this lot stays in the engine block. It doesn't all seep out, which it doesn't want to. I don't think it is so far. I don't think there's any. There's no puddles. What I do need to do is I need to get the stub that goes off the top of the angled metal section, largely because it wasn't fitted. I'm going to have to do that stub up a tiny bit more. It wasn't fitted, and it originally had a much later T-piece hose, but then we couldn't get the right bloody water pump for it, so I don't know quite what happened in its day, but I suspect it was just a Unipart special. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. Right, let's just see if we can't do that up just a smeg. This is just a water temperature sensor. The only reason I've used that is because it's a 5/8 UNF 18 thread per inch, which is what the hose tail is that I need to get. Oh yes, I'm going to have a look for that in a minute. Painted as best I can the area that goes underneath the pedal box. and I can start to reassemble that later on today. Once that's all gone off, I've taken the motor out for the heater unit because, where is it? Here it is, down here. It is, I don't think it's seized, but I'm pretty sure it should spin easier than that. So I'm going to take it apart and lube up the bearings inside it. That's not difficult to do. It's pretty much the same motor, not exactly the same. It's a very similar motor to the one that's used on the Range Rover metal heater boxes. I have plumbed the radiator in, put the thermostat in, put the hoses on, bought the little stub there to connect the metal angle bracket up to the heater pipe, and then done all that. Then I started looking because the customer said to me the heater has never worked. Now, this is free. Okay, so it's definitely not that valve. It's good. We've not had to fix that. I was just going to replace it anyway. So then I turned the knob on the dashboard, the one that's up there, which is supposed to rotate this thing here. This is seized up solid. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to take the control cable off. I think the control cable is likely to be the root cause here. I'll do that in a moment. But it looks like someone has been at it. It really is looking quite delicate. To get that off, you need the glove box out. It's only crosshead screws and stuff, but we had no key for the glove box lid. So there'll be MGB owners furious out there for me to tell you that if you undo the screws on the bottom of the cover, undo the screws on the hinge, pull the hinge base out, slide it sideways, it opens. There you go. 3 screws. The locks come out. I've got it all out, and that's all apart, and you've got to push the roll pin out in order to get the lock out. And I can see that the key is the wrong one for the lock, which then brings me on to, well, there's probably one lock that covers that, which I haven't got. And I've only got 2 FS keys here. One definitely does ignition, and the other one does the boot lid. So, got no door locks, got no glove box lock. So what I might do is just double check with the customer what he wants me to do. Maybe we'll just order a complete set of privacy locks with a dedicated key, or I can work with him that I can reconfigure them so there's just one key for the lot for everything on here. What else have I been up to? So motor came off. I've tightened all of the back end of this up now. This is more or less ready for me to bleed the brakes, which is why I wanted to paint that, so I can do that. Then we got into the bother of, let's put my light on, the corrosion in the footwell. And the reason I've taken the centre console out, by the way, is because I wanted to take the carpet right out of the way. The inner sill has succumbed somewhat down here. So what I'm going to do, Sniff, is I'm going to cut the footwell right out. So from under here, you know what I've done there is I've left the light inside the car. Let's go back and get the lights. Ignore the bits of cardboard and filler on the floor. Now, what I figure, if I were to get these out, they're not going to come out, by the way, these. I can give it a go, but I suspect these are not going to come out. And then more or less cut straight across here. Straight down there, or down there. More or less where it connects on here. Straight down there. Along the bottom, for now. This whole chunk can then come out. That will then give me access from inside the wheel well to rebuild the end of the inner sill. And then I can make a repair or rebuild that and weld it all back in again. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Car used to be blue, by the way. And there indeed is the blue. Couldn't tell you what colour blue. It's likely that is just overspray. And I found more of that blue underneath the dashboard on this side. Let's get me Lampy McLamp face. So there's the pedal box ready to go back in. stay open. So you can see more of the blue in there. Original blue. There you go. We thought it might be blue, and now we know. So I'm just going to faff around and do odds and sods with this and get this such that I can get the brakes bled, the wheels can go back on it, weld up the footwell, get the engine started. I've got all the fuel lines have been replaced, so I've not replaced the steel line, but I've been underneath it, all looks reasonably intact. Replace the steel line, sorry, not replace the steel line, replace the rubber lines on the steel line and connect that up to my new filter up there. And we should be not far off. Now I've just reconnected the original breather pipes here. I might be replacing those. I have ordered some more breather pipe. And we don't know if the radiator is going to hold any pressure at the moment either. It's showing signs of it has leaked down here. And in fact, it's looking a bit moist down there now. So it might just be that the rad needs some work. But let's see if the engine runs before we actually get down to doing that. It's just got water in it at the moment. Excuse me. Well, that's been pretty much it for the last couple of days in MGB world. So I'll look into locks. As I say, I've got the glove box lock. I can reconfigure these quite easily. They're not difficult to reconfigure, and it's only a 5-lever lock, standard FS key. Not the end of the world, is it? Should be able to do that. Yes. And I don't know what we're going to do about it, because none of the doors have got locks. And you know that is going to be door card off, but the door card looks like it's just held on with screws. It's not part of the remit for now. Not part of the remit for now, so I'm not going to worry too much about door locks. But if we can get the glove box to open and close, that's going to make life a little bit easier for the customer. So I'll configure that to be the same as the ignition key, which is that one. So when I put that key into the lock, you can see the levers need reconfiguring, they need changing around, because the levers should all pull in tight when you put the key in. Easy enough. Right, pedal box is back in. I've not put the pedals on yet because I've got to do the work on the bulkhead still, on the footwell, and they're just going to get in the way. So then I thought, do you know what, I'm going to pull this motor apart and let's have a look and see what's going on with that. And I started doing it and I thought, ah shit, I did say to you I was going to video this. So, there we go. You're there. So all you really need to do here with these, the connectors come off dead easily. They're just pushing spade connectors. Undo the 2 nuts on the back there, clean the threads up before they come off, and then spray penetrating fluid along this joint here. Okay? And you should be able to wiggle the top cover off. Now that's the bush in there that has got a felt pad around the outside of it. You probably could remove it, but they're actually peened in on these metal clips. So I tend not to worry about it. I just tend to put oil in it and then clean that off. As you can see, I've already done that. So then really I'm just, the bush at the other end that the main shaft goes through appears to be all right actually. I don't really want to take the impeller off, sorry, take this fan off, and in order to get to that bush I need to take that off, and that's not going to happen for one reason or another. I can get at the end of the shaft from behind the fans, but I'm not going to put oil in there. Sorry, my ear has just popped. It's very convenient of you, Richard. If you needed to replace the brush plate, then take the spring and the washer off, the brush plate comes off. Alright, you can see those brushes are more than healthy. If you wanted to take the armature out, you'd have to take this off. The rest of this is all looking in fairly good order, so I'm actually just going to pop it back together again. Let's pop it back together again the same way it came apart. Was it that way or was it that way? So I took a picture of the top end of the motor, and we see we've got the 2 posts there, and then we've got the positive terminal and we've got the negative terminal. So I set the 2 posts at the same orientation. It doesn't matter because this thing spins. So I know I'm working with that rivet there, and the block here is ambidextrous. It can go either way round. And so then all I really do is position that on there, pull the brushes back. We're now in position, and again we can then put the 2 washers, 2 springs, clean the crap, and this is a 3-in-1 I've used on this. Clean the crap off, and then the positive terminal I think was that one there, which lines up with the spade. That then goes back on. Is it going to go on? Trouble is, sometimes the bush fanar doesn't line up with the shaft itself. So what you have to do here is just use a bit of copper pipe here, wiggle the bush around until you get it roughly in the centre, which is about there. We'll try again. Wrong one, that one. What I'm looking at here then, spade terminal and hole. So the lid can only go on one way round. Right, I think that's kind of about there. Oh, it's better. It is better. Still squeaking though. But it's better. So what I really want to do next, I think, is probably rob that off there. Is it going to go on there? It might do. See if we can't get in there. See if we can't get that oil to work its way down the shaft, and it is there. There it goes. Instantly feel it smoothing up there. Might fire it up, see what happens. Just going to get a battery. Oh, there's one here. Oh, right. Let's hold that down with my hand. It's a lot quieter than it was. Now we've lubricated that a little bit, let's put a little bit more oil in there. Hold that on with my hand. There it goes. Hear the whine. Just as the oil was working its way up the shaft, it started whining at me. I think it's worth a go putting that back on the car. Fortunately, they're not difficult to extract as and when you decide you need to piss around with the brushes, whatever. Right, I need that metal clip to put back on again, which I just took off moments ago. There it is. I can go there. I can go there. I can't remember which way round it went now. Never mind. I'll sort that out. This can go back on the car, and another thing fixed, possibly.